That's weird. It didn't play our intro.
Is it? I wonder if it's because I have the stuff linked.
Oh, whatever. We're live anyway. Welcome everybody back to the this episode of the Nonsensical Knowledge Podcast. Tonight we have a special treat for you. We have Kayla May O'Connell, who is the owner of Mazzy's Garden. She is an intuitive reader, certified hypnosis life coach, and Reiki master healer, and is also I already said that. You can find Kayla on YouTube, X, Facebook, Instagram, and Patreon. Kayla, what's up?
What's going on, guys? I'm so excited to be here. Watch you guys all the time, and I love what you guys are doing with this and the topics and everything that you guys talk about. It needs to be talked about, so I'm really excited to be here.
We definitely try. We are super excited to have you on. I know we've been kicking the idea around for a while now.
Yeah.
And it's about friggin' time that we did it. And
I agree.
What's going on with you, though? Like, what's new? Like, obviously you have so much going on.
I do. So right now I'm towards the end. I have a couple weeks left of me graduating with my degree as an integrative healing arts practitioner with an advanced focus in hypnotherapy. I'm already a certified hypnotherapist. This just makes it so that I can, especially here. So I don't know if everybody knows where we're all located, but here where we live in the state that we live in, I don't know if you guys are posting that or not. I don't know. I don't want to
we randomly will say it every once in a while. We don't.
I just don't want to I don't want to ruin nothing that kind of, whatever. So where we, right. Right. So where we live, it's heavily regulated. So
how so? Not to cut you off, but how so?
There's a lot of laws, honestly, and regulations. Like I am considered a hypnotherapist, but in our state, I can't call myself a therapist, a counselor, say it's therapy or anything like that without being licensed. So that's why I'm going and doing what I'm doing now so that I can become licensed. And it's to protect people. And I get it, but there's a lot that honestly, in my personal opinion, it's all about the money. It's really just cash grabs. And, so I'm just doing my due diligence because I know that there's going to be even more regulation on a lot of this stuff that I'm doing. Like being a Reiki master, which I've been for years now. And that journey started, 2018, I got a level 1. And then there's a lot of this stuff online where you see a lot where it's like, you could become a Reiki master in a weekend and all that stuff. And that's not really how you should be doing it. So let's in my opinion,
let's take a step back though. Right.
Sure.
So obviously, for a long time, you felt at least a little bit extra spiritual in a sense, right?
Absolutely. Since I was a child. Things I was doing as a child, I look back now and I'm like, how did I know to do those things? I've always been extremely intuitive. I could always read a room. I could always see things clearly. I always picked up on cues from my adults, like really easily. I always knew when someone was like lying or something was going on that I'm like, they're lying to us. Like, this is not really what's happening. And my parents knew, but I grew up as a Roman Catholic. So a lot of the stuff that I could do, I could see, hear, all of that
was kind of blasphemous in a sense.
Yeah. And I was really connected to like the sky, moon cycles, the earth cycles, weather, all that stuff. And so I have like a deep connection to all that stuff and always have been. Like there's things that we were doing as kids, me and my sisters, that I look back now and I was like, yo, the witch in me was super strong. I don't know how I knew to do any of that stuff
So now,
at that age.
Now, when you say that, so what were some of the experiences in your childhood years that like almost led you to believe that you were having these like this is going on, you know? So like, what were some of those experiences?
So in the house I grew up in, I could always out of the corner of my eye, I could see shadows. Like I can see, like I could see more now that I've like cultivated and stuff like that. But when I was younger, I would be watching the TV and I could see someone standing like in the corner of my living room. And then I'd look and they'd be gone. And then I look back and I would tell my parents and they'd be like, you know, active imagination. They always said I had like a crazy active imagination when I was younger. So, and I mean, I get it. I'm a mom now. I get when my daughter says certain things. I mean, being who I am, I always like understand the other side. I'm like, oh, okay. She's doing
Sure.
that at first, especially when she was little. You don't know if it's actually an active imagination or if it's your kid's really seeing that stuff.
Well, right. And kids happen to be hyper aware of those situations and in their
Yeah, they weren't
innocence.
groomed yet. They weren't
Yeah,
groomed to block it out.
exactly. They weren't indoctrinated in a sense to
Yep.
lose that mystical being that they always will be. But
Fun fact, I took a when I was younger in my like early 20s, I took a college course for early childhood development. And at 5 years old is when we peak for our creativity and imagination and like our like outward thinking or capabilities or possibilities, because they start school and they get indoctrinated.
yeah,
It's like, yeah, and it's a fact. And they like teach it that like they teach you that that's the case. And so even then I knew, I was like, oh my gosh, like we're just so groomed. It's not even just indoctrinated, it's groomed, really.
yeah, of course.
It's
Well,
like beyond.
well, again, because Irv and I talk about this all the time, is how they want to dumb you down.
Oh, absolutely.
If you're elevated and your vibration is higher, they don't want that. They want you miserable. They want you paying bills, going to work, stressed, depressed, everything else. They don't want,
because then you would know how to make money. You'd know how to become wealthy. You'd know how to use what your creative sense and the things that you're meant to be doing in your favor. And then they can't control you. And it's all about control.
Oh, no question. So now growing up in a Roman Catholic family, I was baptized Catholic myself. I don't practice, but now growing up in a Roman Catholic family, how did your family react to these things after they got past like it's an active imagination thing?
I learned really early on to keep it to myself. Some were a little interested, but it didn't go past a certain threshold. I'll say it that way. Like, you know, if they heard a few things or whatever, they think it was cool, but they didn't really go past a certain threshold, because I picked up, like I said, I was very perceptive as a child too. So I picked up very early on from conversations, listening to them. I was a nosy child too. So like I always wanted to be in listening to what the adults were saying and all of this stuff. And just from picking up on certain cues and things that I've heard, I knew to keep certain things to myself because it wouldn't be
received well.
Yeah, received well, accepted. I also didn't want to be called crazy, because a few times I had said stuff. I was getting like, you're crazy, especially with like some of my friends when I was younger and all this stuff. I can remember talking about aliens as a child and being so matter of fact about it. And people thought I was absolutely insane. Like my friends used to call me insane. People in my family would laugh at me.
We know all about it.
Yeah. So, I learned to keep that stuff to myself. And then as I got older, I started to showcase myself more with my peer group and stuff, and owned it there, and still kind of kept it a little quiet with my family. And then I want to say it's been 7 years now, I want to say, that I really started to wholeheartedly embody with them. I was embodying it far before that. And like all my
But now
friends,
you're, but now you're actually
oh
you're
yes, no,
manifesting,
I'm very
right?
much like vocal about it. Had
All in.
I had, explained to my family that I'm no longer going to be considered a Roman Catholic as I was baptized and stuff, but that's not what I'm practicing, and that's not how I believe that certain things are, like strictly by the Bible and stuff like that. I think there are some great
Sure.
things in the Bible and stuff, but I don't, whatever. And I got a little bit of backlash from it.
Yeah.
And not that they're, overly judgmental or like that. It's how they know, and it's what their life has been set up like. So it was
And it's a
definitely a
different
little,
generation as well.
yeah. So, and I can tell, they still, there's some of them that don't take me too seriously when I start talking about certain things. And, they get the eye rolls and the glances at each other, when I start
Cool.
talking type stuff. So I know that they accept me because they love me. My family's is a very loving family. We're very supportive of each other. They, love me to death and everything, but there just is kind of like a silent acceptance, like okay. I don't know
You
that
know
they
what
would come out
though?
and super support, but there's a silent acceptance there.
It really is tough for people that are super religious because
Yeah.
like you said, that's how their brain works, that's how their
Mm-hmm.
faith works.
Yep.
It's their entire existence. And that's okay too, but
Yeah.
again, it conflicts with anything that's outside of that.
Yeah.
So when you're talking about, and this is one thing I wanted to ask you is like, how did that
Sure.
translate to the paranormal? Like obviously you said you saw shadow people in a sense, or shadows.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Um, now it's hard to reconcile with religious people that this could be a ghost that is actually a spirit, you know what I mean? But are actually tapping into this. You're tapping
Yeah.
into that energy.
All right. So what are you actually asking?
So what I'm asking is how did you have like paranormal experiences as a
Oh, yeah.
child
Oh,
coming up
yeah.
to now?
Yeah. So which I didn't know until I was much older. I'm a very, I astral project, and I'm a very
Okay.
lucid. Yeah. And I'm a very lucid dreamer. And I didn't realize as a child that that's what I was doing. So I would get a lot of stuff in my dreams. I would get people coming to me and talking to me in my dreams. People that have passed on in my family would come and talk to me in my dreams. I'd have certain, premonition type dreams. And my sisters are very much like this too. They just don't take it as far as I do.
Sure.
So, in us, we would talk about, I have two sisters. So in the three of us, we would talk about it a lot. And kind of go back and forth because a lot of that stuff would happen to us often. And so I don't know. I guess I just learned to internalize it, really. I shut a lot of that stuff down for a long time because I didn't have that external support. And when
Do,
someone is
do you
vibrates
feel like
very
it hurt?
high.
Do you feel like it hurt your confidence in a sense too, not having that support?
Wouldn't say my confidence, but it makes you doubt your own intuition.
Right.
And that happens, especially when as little kids, when we're like, oh, I'm feeling this. I know that this is not right. And then the people that you're trusting who don't have malicious intent behind it, but the people that you're trusting to guide you are telling you, no, that's not what's really going on. So then you question how you're feeling and what you're feeling and being like, well, wait, they're telling me that it's something different and I'm supposed to trust them and love them and they're supposed to be telling me the truth. So that's where like the disconnect starts. And it that's what with a lot of us, honestly. Everybody has their intuition and so that's where the disconnect really starts, is in our childhood. And then it trickled beyond that. And then I went through, I've always kind of stuck with it. It's always been very, very prominent in my life. I couldn't hide it if I wanted to, and believe me, sometimes I wanted to feel like I fit in, or like, not like the black sheep, or to be accepted. Yeah. Well, as a teenager, you want to fit in, you know what I mean? Especially, right. So like teenage years, right, early 20s, I had a hard time with that part of my life and wanting to own it, but then having people telling me I'm crazy and looking at me weird and being like, oh, do you really believe that? Like, I don't know. And then straight out arguing, because some people get really strong reactions when you start talking about that kind of stuff, and they can't handle it. It rocks their reality, and what they know to be true. And that when you start to dismantle that, people don't react very well.
No, they really don't.
Yeah. So I got a lot of that in my early years. So I stayed quiet for a very long time. And probably when I got pregnant with my daughter is when I really couldn't hide it anymore, because for women, pregnancy, you're literally taking a soul and bringing it to earth. So someone like me, you're all the way tapped in to the point where like you're seeing, hearing, feeling, knowing everything. And my intuition, my psychic sense was like on 1,000. I couldn't even stop it if I wanted to. And so, and there's certain things that I had disclosed with, because I was staying with my daughter's father's parents at the time of my pregnancy, that I would say things to them that's starting to happen now. That's like going on now, that I'm like, I feel like this is going to happen. And I had my daughter back in 2011, and I'm like, I feel like this is going to happen sometime. We're going to see this in our lifetime. And his mom would just look at me and be like, okay. Like, she would try to be as supportive as possible. She just probably thought I was crazy. And now, we just had this convo where she's like, I remember you saying some of this stuff. Like, I remember it. And I was just like, yeah, isn't that crazy? And she's like, yeah. So it's honestly like a muscle. The more you use it, the better you are at it. But if you shut it down, it takes work to get it back.
Yeah, of course. And that's the thing but you still have that core muscle memory. It's there. Yeah. It's inside of you. No question.
Yeah, it's definitely there no matter what. Like I said, even if you want to shut it all the way completely out, something always pulls you back in, especially if it's part of like your life path or what you're meant to be doing in this lifetime, what you're here for, and just like your makeup of your person. Everything in your body, your cells are made up that way. It's in your DNA. It's in, you know what I mean? So, because I'm also very I'm a very science minded, loved science. Wish that I could have studied alchemy, like on a hardcore serious tip, like for real.
That's a different kind of science though.
But it's really biology, chemistry, and physics in one. It's all three of them. And so all they really did was separate them and make them separate and be like, oh, you can't mix them because they don't want you to know you can alchemize stuff. They don't want you to know how to do that. You get really powerful when you know how to do that. But so my science mind, I always needed to understand what was happening. So I would go and research, and I've done a lot of research in my time and trying to rationalize so that I can, because I used to argue with people all the time, be like, no, this is really like what's happening. I'd go and find receipts. I'd go and figure it out and then show up with receipts and be like, all right, well, we'll just see what happens then. And then I get proven right every time.
Well, again, though, a lot of us are indoctrinated to believe that after a certain point, once we get into that societal structure, school, high school, middle school, college, they beat down that energy in you, that vibration. And I think a lot of us are probably born with it. It's just a matter of being able to tap into that and harness that. And with that being said, what do you think you're actually tapping into? Is this like a universal energy?
It's a collective consciousness. We're all so our brain, all right, you got to think about it like this. We have brain
Cosmic records.
waves, right? So everything's frequency, right? Everything's energy. Everything's on a frequency. Everything's on a wave. And our brain operates in different waves depending on what we're doing and what's happening. So like,
Theta, alpha,
alpha, theta, delta, and then there's a somnambulism when that's when you're like out sleeping. Okay. And this is where kind of like hypnotism comes in, because hypnotism brings you into the different waves. They're considered altered state of consciousness. And we all do it throughout our day. Daydreaming is an altered state of consciousness. Watching TV is actually considered an altered state of consciousness. And that's why subliminals work so very well. Reading is an altered state of consciousness. Driving is an altered state of consciousness. So there's different levels that we go in and out of, like in our everyday, where we just kind of go down into a different wave, right? So if you're tapping into a collective, or you're trying to get messages, it's really about tapping into just a different wave, a different frequency. And there's a collective frequency. Source that's what I call God or the universe, or I just call it source because it's the source of all things, right? And it makes it easier when you're talking to everybody, so that you're not offended. Because as soon as you offend someone, or they don't like the way that you put it, the walls are going up and they're no longer receptive to what you're talking about. So if you just say source, and then however you decide to, so
wherever it goes, right?
Yeah, so that you can still connect with people. But when you're just tapping into that, I mean, source is the highest level of frequency. So if you're training yourself to keep going higher and higher, you're eventually going to tap into that higher level of frequency, and then you're going to start getting downloads. And the universe really loves to, I always think of it as like a big child. It loves to play. It wants you to have the information. It wants you to like play, because imagination and all of that stuff, it's very playful. It's very, I don't want to say naive, but it's childlike. Bringing in, especially like if you ever think about when you're learning someone new, someone, but also something new, you feel very juvenile, right? Like it's that beginner juvenile, you almost get into that little kid, like, am I going to be okay? Like, you start second guessing. So when you're trying to vibe higher, that's why you see a lot of gurus, or a lot of they're almost a little childlike sometimes, or they have a sense of humor that's very playful, or they don't, because the highest level, there is no
it's kind of
ego, but there's not like a sense of, I don't know how to say it.
It is.
I don't know how to say it or translate it. But so when you're tapping into that stuff, you're going on a different way. It's just a different wavelength. And some people are more sensitive to those frequencies. It's like a dog being sensitive to the whistle. And some people can feel it, or because wavelengths are energy, sometimes you can feel it. That's why
the only reason we exist is because we vibrate at a certain frequency. So you're saying, you're accepting these frequencies in. It's whether or not you're tuning in. So 98.3 is playing over here.
Right.
We're in 96.3, but that's still going on right over here. You just got to be able to access that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's why a lot of the stuff that the powers that be on Earth here promote, a lot of stuff that's lower frequency. They don't want you to vibe that high. The food that we eat, the media that we consume, the music that they push or is more mainstream, all of that stuff, the frequency, it's crazy. I'm actually, as soon as I graduate, I have another course already lined up. I'm also going to be getting certified in sound healing, because sound healing is powerful. It is powerful because it's on frequencies, and that's what we're made up of.
Sure. Yeah. Well, this is a good segue into being getting into the Reiki thing.
Yeah.
So at what point did you said you've been practicing for a super long time, right?
Yep. I got my first level certification in 2018, I believe it was.
Okay.
And then I practiced at a level 1 for so many years. And then I got my level 2 in 2020, I think.
So now what does this look like? So what does the training for a Reiki master look like? How does one get involved? And is it like anybody can do this, or is it really should be somebody that can manipulate that kind of energy?
Well, everybody can manipulate energy.
If you can also explain what it is too, like what
yeah,
exactly
absolutely.
it's
Well,
about for people.
For what Edwin said, everybody can manipulate energy. We are energy, so we can manipulate it. It's about the access that we have, or the honestly, it's about how clean and clear you are. Then it goes back to the food, and it goes back to what we listen to, and it goes back to our mindset and what frequency we're operating on. Yeah. So Reiki is it was founded by his last name is Usui. Can't remember what his first name is right now. I wish I have a packet over there with all this stuff in it.
We could probably bring it up on the stream.
Yeah. His last name is Usui. It's Usui, I think. He was in Japan. He trained with monks, and he went and trained with monks for a very long time. And while he was up on one of the mountains in meditation, and it was one of the longer meditations. He sat for, I think it was, if it wasn't weeks, it was months, something along those lines. And he source came to him and presented to him that you can heal. There's a way to heal by accessing the Earth's life force energy, channeling it through your body, and pushing it back out to other people.
Okay.
So that's basically what Reiki is. We're channeling, we're drawing up energy from the Earth, it's life force energy, and we are, it goes through our chakra systems, and then you push it back out through your palm chakras, because they always talk about the 7 chakras, but there's a way more chakras than just 7. Those are just like the 7 hubs. So you have palm chakras and you have feet chakras. So you pull the energy through your feet chakra and you push it back out with your palm chakras. And there are symbols, and these symbols are named certain things that help you access this energy in the right way. That's why I like chanting, humming, all that kind of stuff. All that stuff works. Yeah, all that stuff works because it's on a certain frequency. So some of these symbols have certain sounds to them and what their names are that you access, and it helps channel that energy. So you have to go through different levels. You learn in your first level, you learn what they call the power symbol. And then you work with that. And it's kind of like if you ever played video games, it's like your booster. You know what I mean? It's like what boosts everything. And then you learn in your second level certain specific ones. There's now I need to ask. Yeah, I wish I had my. I thought maybe my thing was right there, but there's a healing one. There's a distance Reiki. There's one that you can use for certain. And distance Reiki can be through this is why I don't like when people learn it online. And this is why I don't like when people try to do it online, because yeah, you can access it online. Okay. And you can do it to somebody online, but it has to filter through so many channels of energy and frequency and lines to get through that it kind of dilutes.
It'd be the equivalent of you trying to do it on us right now. It's like from online. That's weird as shit. I could
do it. It's distance Reiki. It goes through time, space, and this.
Sure, which is totally.
But it also it gets filtered through everything that you're passing it through, that time, space, and stuff. So if I'm passing it through this internet, it's going through all of the connections from me to you. So that it's like getting passed through cheesecloth through cheesecloth through cheesecloth. You know what I'm saying? Like it just all these different filters, like air filter, air filter, air filter. And so it dilutes it, in my opinion. Not everybody believes that. In my opinion, it dilutes it in a way. Reiki is best when it's hands-on. It used to be a very closed practice. You could only learn from another master that learned directly from Usui. I don't know when it got westernized. So that's why I'm not going to say what the symbols are. There's a sacredness that I think should be there. That has been breached in certain areas, and I'm not knocking anybody that does it or sells it or whatever. I'm not.
No, but there are scam artists. There are people that take advantage of people and will charge you 10 grand for the distance Reiki. Solve all your problems right now.
I know it's bad.
It really is ridiculous.
It is ridiculous.
But it's just an opening for scammers to get in there.
Yeah, and the way that they also you learn about your different chakra levels and what you need to do to clear them. And so our chakras are pools, where energy pools in each place in us. And you can feel it. Like when you get cleared, what the master does when they're like your mentor, they're teaching you, they eventually place the symbols in your crown chakra so that you're able to receive them. And what that does is it opens you up. And I went through a very vigorous, I'm going to be honest, because I was a little skeptical when I've seen it work. And you guys can, I don't know if you can bring it up or anything. There's an actual video of 6 Reiki masters Reikiing a man that has a tumor in his stomach. And they put the x-ray machine over it and you watch the tumor shrink. It takes them 6 hours, but they shrink the tumor. Because what Reiki does is it pushes this healing energy, this life force energy into your cells, and it makes the cells generate rejuvenation. It kicks all the bad stuff out of the cells and makes them start healing. It literally can help cure cancer. Does it take a lot and it's a slower process? Absolutely. But it's been proven scientifically it does. And that's why a lot of hospitals and stuff are starting to hire Reiki masters for after surgery, because it speeds up the cellular level of healing. I can't remember the percentage, but it's a decent percentage of how much you speed up. So not to toot my own horn, and I'm not going to say any names, but just recently I had someone reach out to me because her father, who was elderly, had fallen down the stairs and was in the hospital. It was pretty bad, and they weren't really sure that he's going to make it at all. That makes me think I have to check in on them. But anyway, I went and did Reiki on them, and he had a very extremely low heart rate before I started the Reiki, and I got his heart rate back up over 100 while I was doing it. And they were so blown away. They're like, oh my God. And he started moving limbs that he hadn't been moving in days. So it works. It just takes time. Everybody wants instant gratification, instant results nowadays. And so that's why everyone's like, oh, it's a poo-poo, that woo-woo stuff. And they always say that. And it's like, no, if you really just take the time and let it work for you, it works.
Well, what's interesting about Reiki in general is that this goes throughout many different cultures. There's even you can even relate this to the placebo effect. If you believe and put that energy into it as much as you're saying, and the time, you could really heal yourself in a sense.
Well, that's what Reiki, my first level, you do a lot of self Reiki, and you learn how to self Reiki first before you're allowed to place hands on somebody else.
That makes sense. You want to be right. You want to be right with the energies first.
Yep. and then you go through your second level, and your second level is like an outwards practitioner, and then you become a Reiki master. And that's when get access to the last symbol, which lets you pretty much do all of the symbols in one. And like, so you could just like do all this crazy stuff in one.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now as a Reiki master, how does this feel for you when you're doing this to them? So do you get what I'm saying?
I get, so imagine yourself as an appliance and being plugged in. That's the way that I describe it. It's you, like, I get really, really hot. I get a lot of
air fryer, not blender.
No, I get like really, really hot. I can feel the energy surging through. Like, I can feel it. Like, I'll start sweating. I'll get like really red in my face. My hands get really hot. You yourself, if you're like my client or patient, you'll feel the energy coming off of me, and you'll feel it coming off of my hands. I've had so many people be like, oh my gosh. And like, you'll feel certain like shifts in your body. It almost feels like, like when there's gas in your stomach and then you shift a certain way and then you feel the gas shift in your body. That's what I get described by my clients that tell me that it feels like something shifted in their body and like things moved and shifted. And I get a lot of times where there is stuff where like clients will want to like, burp and fart and all that stuff because things are literally shifting inside their body, and it's coming up and out.
Yeah. And that's still energy pent up, so.
Exactly. Reiki is really to help people with so our emotions, emotions are energy in motion. That's what emotions are. And so when we stifle our emotions down and we don't let them move the way that they're supposed to in the moment that they arise, it creates blockages energetically in us. And so that's another thing with especially men. Let's talk about it. Men, as you're growing up, you're told to stifle your emotions in a major way, especially more of the softer emotions, being hurt, crying, feeling sad, or, any of those things. And men are conditioned. And as a society, we've, been conditioned to condition men to do this, but and that's another topic, but that one is a serious one. But for a lot of men, that's why you'll see a lot of men have such strong visceral reactions when things start to come up, and it's been layered and layered and layered and layered since childhood, and now all of a sudden he's an aggressive, I'm not saying all men are aggressive, but they can't handle it. It comes off as anger and rage because it's been so pent up. It needs to move. And what happens when all this energy is pent up, but it blows? It's going to blow. If it can't be contained in the center that it's in, it's going to break out of the center. So that's why you see a lot of stuff that's layered on from childhood with men, especially. I mean, yes, you see it with women too, but in that aspect, especially when things are, if you're going back to childhood stuff, men, you see it a lot. And that's why I always say men should start peeling back the layers as much as possible and addressing it, because if our emotions can't move, it causes a dis-ease in our body, and that's disease. That's what disease is. So it's going to manifest and get out the way that it needs to. And a lot of it you're going to see in ailments in your body. That's why our immune systems are low. You start seeing cancer. You start seeing mental health effects. You start seeing arthritis and their strength waning and their testosterone and hormonal imbalances and just all of that stuff, because it has to manifest some way. And so in science, the number one rule of energy is it can't be destroyed, right? It's hard to create, and it can't be destroyed once it's created. It has to go somewhere. So that's why they say when we die, our energy has to go somewhere because it can't be destroyed. So what do you think the energy behind the emotions happening inside your body when you stifle it down and you don't speak up when something hurt you and you felt like you needed to cry and you stuffed it down? What did you think was going to happen? It's going to have to go somewhere. It's going to manifest somewhere, and it's going to find the first outlet that it can. In traditional Chinese medicine, a lot of our emotions are tied to organs in our bodies. And so you'll often see if like you have some type of ailment, plug it into traditional Chinese medicine and what that means. And I guarantee the emotion that you've been struggling with somehow correlates to whatever's going on in that part of your body. I guarantee it. I bet money on it.
Well, what's great about like the way we're moving now, especially with people like you and other Reiki masters and everybody else, like we're moving into this new age of alternative health. And
so this is, I wish that it wasn't new age and alternative health because it's the original.
Let me rephrase.
The original. No, I know. And like, you're not, I'm just saying across, everyone thinks like spirituality is this new fad and everybody's jumping on it like, oh my God, I didn't know, holistic, who knew? And it's like, oh, herbs, who knew? And it's like, we did know. We knew.
Yeah.
Actually, we knew before 1920 until they decided that certain things were going to be a certain way. And we could go into that too, Rockefeller. Okay. But listen, I know my rabbit holes. Okay. I know my rabbit holes. Don't get me started on the whole health industry because I will literally lose my shit. But
eugenics, all kinds of crazy shit.
It's bad. But
yeah.
So it's the original way that people were healing themselves. Has science done some great things concerning like antibiotics and certain vaccines and stuff like that? Absolutely. I think that we were supposed to be able to mesh them both. And it was supposed to be able to create. And in fact, in some theories, they used to mesh them both. And it was creating too strong of a society. So they had to separate it and kind of.
Well, alchemy, bringing it back to alchemy, it's science and medicine,
Yeah.
But again, you're right. The narrative needs to be, you need to be unhealthy. Eat the McDonald's. Watch the TV shows that are depressing. You can't tell you how many people are just what is it called? They're desensitized by like horror and gore and all kinds of weird shit like that. The
music, glorifying living in the streets, glorifying being a shitty human being. And not only that, but you don't realize that the sounds that they're using, the frequency of the sound that they're using is also what's keeping you in that certain mindset. And
we've talked about this. We've talked about this on the podcast too, about how it's designed.
I missed that one. Ooh, I'm mad I missed that one. I'm gonna have to go back and watch.
Well, it was Irv, correct me if I'm wrong, but it was in the 90s that they had that big meeting with the all the label.
I was really hoping you'd bring this up because when I found this out, I worked overnights in an animal emergency clinic back in like 2014, 2015, 2016 type thing. And 13, 14, 15, but time doesn't matter. So I would sit and research stuff all night long because we were just sitting there waiting for emergencies to come in. So I would read all this stuff. And that was one of the things that I found that, cause I found an article or something along those lines. One of the retired major Sony executives was on his deathbed and decided to break his NDA and expose a whole bunch of stuff because he's freaking dying anyway. He's like, what the freaking hell do I care, right? And said that there was this huge meeting that they had to sign the NDAs for, that they didn't even know what this meeting was about. Before, they weren't allowed to know anything about it beforehand. And then once they got in there, we're told you're going to start pushing trap music. You're going to start pushing all of this different, lower frequency stuff because prison industry needed, because a lot of prisons were being privatized and they needed money. And it's a part of power and control. And so and that's why you saw like in the you know, because it started late 70s and like in the 90s, 80s, and then even in the early 90s, because I think that meeting was like 1991, 92, something like that.
Yeah, it was in the
you
early
saw
90s.
a lot of motivational rap. You saw a lot of motivational hip hop, a lot of motivational R&B, and then it just completely switched. And now you got someone like Sexy Red talking about gonorrhea. It's great, and it's disgusting. Like, what are you talking about?
Up. She said that?
Dude, her lipstick line, one of the lipsticks is called gonorrhea. The other one's like aborted baby.
Oh,
it's like all this really disgusting stuff. Look it up. I'm not kidding. Her lipstick, like her lip gloss line, is got the most disgusting names. And she just glorifies being a trash human. And I refuse to believe she's probably even a trash human. It's just what they've got her doing.
Yeah. Well, listen again, though, but this is all by design. So you have these handlers that are pushing out these people.
Right.
These people are engineered in a sense, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a reason why they're all fucking related.
Right, you know, and that's again, like you said, we got to keep us down in these lower vibrations. You want that gangster rap, you want the even you know what's even crazier too?
I'm telling you,
country music has gotten a bit more degenerate as well.
Yes, yes.
And
it's across the board.
Yeah, it's insanity. But again, this is why it's all based on frequency. They know what time it is. They know where they got to have us. Even with the 5G shit is wild because the 5G's got us.
I think I might have found it. Hold on.
See if you can find it.
Yeah, one of them's called Booty Hole Brown.
Mm-hmm.
Booty Hole Brown. Coochie. Booty Hole Brown. Coochie Juice. Nut. Okay. One of them is just straight up called Nut.
Shut up. This is wild, bro. And kids are gonna be blind.
Yeah, pussy hole pink. Ugh. Yeah, yellow discharge, gonorrhea, blue balls, and sex on my period. And these are lip glosses. This is just
not a bad
gloss.
thing Hollywood's turning down. Like, I mean, it's sad.
Freaking heck is lip gloss.
Why but this is indicative of where they're headed, you know. So if someone like a Sexy Red wanted to be a role model, she wouldn't sell as many records. Like, you wouldn't sell as many records, you wouldn't get as much money.
Well, here's the thing. What I truly believe is what they tried to do with COVID backfired on them because it gave people time to sit down and actually like disengage from all of that shit, right? Everything shut down. And so when we disengage from all that external stimuli, we become more open to receiving our intuition and our messages that the divine and, you know, the source is trying to give us and all these, you know, inspired thoughts. And so that's why you started to see a huge surge after COVID of everything getting exposed because people really had a chance to sit down, shut up and clear their thoughts and become kind of quiet for a moment. And it boosted that spiritual push that was already happening. And that's why TikTok became so huge because it was unfiltered. Nobody really knew about TikTok back then. So it was so unfiltered that they were able to start posting this stuff and sharing this information and this knowledge and showing receipts and being able to share it in a mass way. And then and so I think even since then, in the last couple of years, I think the uptick of the ridiculousness of like this has been a little bit more stronger because they're trying to do damage control because what they thought was going to happen didn't happen. And it actually favored our side of things more than their side of things. They started to lose more control because they were trying to gain more control with everything that happened with COVID and what they were trying to implement, and it backfired on them. It did not.
It's a new age in time, though. We've never had a time where we've had so many social media platforms, and the government has tried to exert the control over these things. And as you can see with the recent Zuckerberg announcement and all that bullshit.
I know. So I think it's real funny that some of these people are trying to backtrack and cover their tracks like, oh, you know, they were making me do it. Zuckerberg, you really? Because I feel like you had enough resources that if you really didn't want to do it, you might have not been able to do it.
That was my argument as well, Irvin.
Like, you had enough resources. You got so many freaking resources. You're not going to sit there and tell me you're just seeing that side's not winning anymore. So now you're jumping ship because it's going down and you want to get on the right side of things.
I think it's hard to trust cats after they took that move. You know what I mean? Like, it's hard to trust them after the fact now, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. You can backtrack all you want. We were all there. We knew what you were doing.
Yeah. And now, and you're right. COVID really gave us the time to buckle down and see that the government really had control of control of everything, really control of science, control of the media, control of like just shit that we would never think was disputable, like science, for example. Like,
right.
They churched it up all the way.
Well, but so the science behind stuff is they don't push enough of exposure on like scientific journals and stuff like that. All that stuff is public. They just don't push it, and they don't teach you how to go find it. So if you don't know how to find it and you're just trying to live your life, you know, they put us in such a stressful, what do they call it? They called it something in school. I have to, because I have so many thoughts going right now, but you're in such an overstimulated, being. Like, we're always overstimulated. We're in such a stressful, like, we need to pay bills, we need to do this, that it's too much on our nervous system, on our endocrine system, that we're just trying to live day to day. So anything outside of that extra, they're banking on us not going and looking for it because we barely have enough energy to get through our days.
Yeah.
And that's another thing. That's why COVID helped, because everybody sat down for a minute and then had the energy to kind of start being like, that was a little funky. Let me look into that. Or can I find where there's a public record of that, and then going and finding it? Because the thing is with the universal karmic law is they have to tell us what they're doing in order to not get the karmic backlash. That's why everyone's like, this can't be them being so bad. How long have they gotten away with it for this long? Universal karmic law. They tell you before they do it, and then they don't get the ramifications as if they tried to hide it. That's why a lot of our media, and you see like with the Simpsons and certain commercials and stuff like that, they put it out there. Movies are huge for this. They put it out there, and we chalk it up to entertainment. It's entertainment. But really, they're telling you exactly what they're going to do and how they're going to do it, and then they execute it. They're not guilty. You know what I mean? Guilty in the long run because they told us.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, no, it really is fascinating and scary at the same time.
Very scary. It goes so deep, and I haven't even gone as deep as it really goes, because it does. It scares me a little bit. Like, how dark does it really go? And it's dark. So, and I'm just like everybody else. I'm trying to just live my life. Like, I just want to live my life. I want to have fun. Like, I want to enjoy myself. Why do we have to be so stressed out all the time? It's not what we were meant to do here.
Yeah. But. So getting back, so to the Reiki thing. So you said you went through the level 2 stuff, right? So you wrapped up the level 2. Where do we go from here?
And then in 2023, was it? No. Yeah, I think it's been a couple of years now. I think it was like 22, 23. I got my Reiki master. And so I can pretty much, as a Reiki master, you can facilitate a lot of stuff. You can do like group Reikis. You can, you have to get like master teacher in order to teach. You can like kind of teach, but you really should be a master teacher before you teach. Right. And some like to argue that you becoming a master means you're a master teacher, but I'm like on the fence about that. I'm on the fence about it, really.
Well, if you're on the fence about it, that's just you telling yourself that you're not ready and you need more education. You know what I mean?
That's a good point. That very well could be true. I do like to have all of my ducks in a row so that I can never get hit with any kind of liability of any kind of bullshit. So I ain't trying to do none of that. But because people love to, that's another thing. People love to do that shit to you nowadays. So Reiki Master, and that taught me the last symbol where I could do like all of the symbols in one, and do certain things that like level 1 and 2, especially level 1s, they really shouldn't do, because you need the practice to be able to handle that type of energy. That's why I have such like a gripe about this whole. It's a 3-day course, and the first day you got your first level, second day you got your second level, and by the end of it you're gonna be a Reiki master. But you didn't teach any of these people how to handle that level of energy. That's practice. You have to practice, because you're literally taking in energy through your body, filtering it through your body, which hits every organ of your body, and then you're pushing it back out. And you got to give your body time for that. People can shut down. And as a human, you also go through things in life. So like when I went through my first level, there was 3 weeks, and she warned me about it. And a good teacher does warn you about it. If that's how you know that they're a real teacher or not with Reiki, is they'll tell you you're going to go through a 3-week cycle. It's 21 days, where each week a cleansing of each chakra. So one day because there's 7 chakras, once a day, a different chakra is going to go through a filtering system, and you're going to basically be cleansed. It's like being at a door and opening the door. Okay. So that's your first level, is opening the door. And then your second level is widening the door frame. And then your first level is taking your last level is taking the frame completely off. So you're just like a hallway of just being able to, do you know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
So it's really, it's nuanced. You have to, like anything that you really should be doing and worth doing, you got to practice at it, and you got to learn it the right way. So that's why I don't like some of these online 3-day things. And if you're teaching someone online, how are you pressing their symbols into their crown? That's what I always ask people. I'm like, so how are you pressing their symbols into their crown? You doing that distance wise? Because I don't know if that really is the same effect. Just like distance Reiki can help somebody, but if I put hands on you, you're feeling it, and you're feeling it in real time, and it's going to have way more of an impact than if I sent it right now.
Sure.
Now, there's some people that are super strong in that, and have built that muscle and can do that. And so I'm not knocking that aspect of it, because there are they're just really strong Reiki masters who've been doing it for a long time.
But that's it. With more experience, the more powerful you're going to become. The more able to channel this energy you're going to be able to do. With that being said, do you offer services for Reiki healing?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So now how can everybody find that? Is that just through Mazzy's Garden?
Yeah. So they can email me. I have like on all my social media, there's usually a pinned post with my services on it. So I do the intuitive reading stuff, where I read cards. I do tarot, oracle. Sometimes I don't even need the cards, and we can just like pick up on what's going on with you, because I use the cards for people so they can see tangibly something, because it helps them connect better. I read people every day of my life. I'll be walking by and I'll get an intuitive hit like, oh, he cheats on his wife. I don't even know who the person is, and I'll just get it. Oh, he cheats on his wife. He likes, chicken thighs. Like, I don't know. Like, I'll get like really weird random stuff as I'm walking by people, and I can usually pick up on things with people. It's just really random. It's like part of my psychic gifts. But so I do the reading stuff. And that's how I usually bring clients in at first, unless they're looking for Reiki specifically.
Sure.
Cause I usually, if you're looking for some type of
reading,
I usually meet people when they need some type of answer that they can't get themselves. Like there's something going on, and they're just hitting like some type of roadblock. They're hitting a door jam or something, and they don't know what else to do. And they're, if they've tried everything else, like with their religion and all that stuff, and it's still not
because
working.
People like you should be the first stop. This is like
right. But again, we've been indoctrinated for that to not be the norm. It's not the norm. So, especially with society now, it's always been kind of taboo. People like me have always been ostracized and kind of pushed out of society just because of, and I'm not trying to toot my own horn when I say this. This goes across the board with people like me. The power that they hold. There's a lot of power behind being able to see somebody and be able to see behind the mask that they wear every day. People get scared about that. It's like, how do you know that? No, but really, how do you know that? You know what I mean? So people get, especially people that are really good at that kind of stuff, they get very,
who sent you?
Yeah, like they get kind of like a off-put, especially if they've been really good at wearing that mask or the facade for a long time. So there's a power that comes with it, but there's a lot of responsibility with that power. And so people like that. That's why, like, the whole witch trials and, witch hunt and all those things happen. Those witches were healers and they could heal people. And people were like, how are you healing these people? How did you know what was wrong with them? How did you do that? And they couldn't tangibly explain it other than, well, I had a feeling and I know this herb does this and blah, blah, blah. And so with witchcraft, you're from the devil. That there's no way that can even be something that God would give you. And it's like, no, I think God gave me the power to heal so that you could keep living. And, so I almost want people to like make it make sense. If it was something from evil, if it was something from a darkness is the absence of light. It wants to take from you. So if I'm giving to you and I'm helping you and you flourish after it, how is that something from a dark place? I gave you stuff.
Again, it just doesn't fit their narrative. That's another thing, so it just doesn't fit their belief process. And again, culturally, throughout cultures all over the world, shamans, call them a witch, call them a shaman, call them whatever a medium, an oracle,
Well, everybody, so a shaman isn't a witch and a witch isn't a shaman. There's shamanic witches. So all the terms, but I would just blanket it as a healer across the board because every single one of them are healers under that umbrella. And then there's different categories under that.
They're all people that can tap into something that isn't everyone. Everyone isn't tapping into that, it's there.
And it's there. And I think arguably everybody could. I think that some people are born with innate gifts that everybody's not born with. But I think that there's a base level that everybody has that, again, we've been conditioned to not listen to.
Everyone says mine off.
Yeah. See, why though? Why?
Just bad. I had some evil stuff happen.
Yeah, and it gets scary.
And it scared me.
Right, and then you didn't have the support system. Right, and you didn't have the support system to understand what you were seeing, how to protect yourself from what you were seeing. And so a lot of people are like that. And rightfully so. Like, I'm not saying there was anything wrong with what you did. That's like that's our fight or flight response. You're going to protect yourself. So if you have to shut it off, you have to shut it off.
And when you don't understand it as well.
I did the same thing because I didn't have that support system. I didn't know how to protect myself. I didn't know. And when you're open like that, everything can see you. It's not just the good can see you. Everything can see you.
Everything can see you.
So it's very tricky. That's where I was saying, like, with the power comes a lot of responsibility because it's not for it's not for someone who just wants to like dabble. You know what I mean? Like that's where people get that's where people get hurt, or that's where like some nasty dark stuff ends up happening because the dabbling is not. You know what I mean? Like it's not. I wouldn't recommend it. Like that's not.
Well, we've known people that have dabbled a bit too much and have found themselves in an awfully dark place.
Right. And it's because they didn't know how to protect themselves and didn't have the discernment, the knowledge and the discernment to know what they were tapping into. Trickster
power
energies
corrupts, too.
love to pretend like they're helping you and protecting you, and then once they gotcha, they gotcha. So it's like you gotta know. And if you don't have anybody around you, like, you know, some people, sure, they get that they have that beautiful thing where this is in their family and the lineage, and they've kept it sacred and they've passed it down and they've been really good. But a lot of people, a lot of this stuff gets lost. People stop talking about it out of being condemned, or, you know, and then they don't pass it on. And so that knowledge is getting lost. It's getting burned away. It's getting, you know, killed off. And then, you know, people think this stuff is fun. It's like, oh, it's a fad. Let me get some crystals and let me make a little circle, a little salt circle, and let's do a seance. And it's like, you don't even know what you're doing. Like, you don't know what you're opening yourself up to. Please don't do that. Like,
so, with that being said, though, because this is one of the wildest things that I've ever thought of is like, so what's the deal with these Ouija boards?
So a Ouija board is it's the same. It's a divination tool. It's the same thing as my tarot cards. It's the same thing as a pendulum. It's the same thing as I have these copper rods. I don't know if you've ever seen anybody use the copper rods. Copper rods they use for energy. Rods. Yeah, dowsing rods. They use for energy. These are divination tools too. It's
so
all
you can
about
find
energy.
You can find energy. You can find water with those things.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I'm not moving those. This is
Kayla, just for the record, I did spend ask her if I spent like 3 or 4 years of my life chasing ghosts, haunted shit.
I love that. You ever want to get back into it? I'm here with you. I will go with you and do that shit. I am not kidding. Listen, I love some paranormal freaking activity.
It's so fun.
It is so much fun. And if you got someone who can actually hear what they're saying and know that there's something actually in the room with you, it gets even crazier.
Bugged out.
It gets. Yeah. I used to do it when I was younger, and with some crazy shit happened, and they were like, "This didn't happen the last time we came," and I was like, "It's because I'm here. It's you got someone who knows what they're doing." All right,
well, again, someone that's sensitive to it, it's gonna happen. You know,
right.
you're gonna feel
back to Ouija boards, it's a divination tool. It's how to tap into energy. So if there are spirits that still are holding on to energy and stuff like that, and they want to communicate, that's what that is. It's channeling through you, kind of like how I channel, you know, with Reiki. It's channeling energy through. It's the same thing. The difference with Ouija boards and why someone like me has a very like hands off unless you know what you're doing type thing is anything can come through. And stuff like that, when you're open and you don't have protection, like I said, a trickster energy or something that's a little bit darker feeds off that in an instant. And they come in and they'll tell you whatever they want. They'll say, yeah, your grandma, sure. And they'll give you whatever answers you want to hear. So you keep tapping into it so that they can hook in, and then they can hook in and start siphoning your energy. That happens.
Oh, I can imagine. So Regine 777, how do you protect yourself properly?
So first and foremost, stay prayed up. And I'm not even joking about that. Prayer is a crazy strong prayer. Also, is it also prayer? I forgot to say that earlier. Is it also altered state of consciousness? And that's why you like when we are in church and stuff like that, and you see it as a collective, everybody starts getting really moved in prayer. You guys are all tapping into an altered state of consciousness together, collectively. It's actually quite moving, and I love when that stuff happens. And that's why you get so moved, and you get like there's like a surgence of different types of emotions that come up. But so prayer is huge. Every morning and every night, saying prayed up. Learning how to cleanse your energy effectively. So I always talk about spiritual baths, because water is the best conduit to cleansing yourself. And that I don't just mean hygienically. Water has memory. Okay. So it holds a lot of stuff. Water also can help give life. There's just, I love water. Don't get me started just on water itself. Just even from a science standpoint, water is absolutely an enigma, and people like really just don't even understand how crazy water really is. But anyway, talk. I know it's going to sound weird, and people are like, oh, what are you talking about? This is where the crazy lady comes out of me. Talk to your water. It holds memory. if it can hold a vibration, which it does, and they've scientifically proven this, though, if you don't believe me, go look it up. Talk to your water, do spiritual cleansing baths, set intentions, and mean it when you're setting it. You have to have full force confidence when you're doing that kind of stuff. There's certain herbs that are very protective. There's certain practices, rituals. And I hate using the word ritual. So sometimes I say sacred ceremony because ritual has such a negative connotation to it. But like a sacred ceremony in self where, you are doing a lot of cleansing stuff that, you walk outside your house, there's all types of people you're meeting, different energies you're coming in contact with, the spirits and all that stuff. Okay. And so we as energetic beings, energy likes to connect with other energy. So once an energy connects with you, there's a residue that stays. And so, especially on our auras, and our light body, because we're actually as humans a light body that's in a 3D in a like a dense matter. It's being held in by our dense matter through the 3D formations, but we're a light body, and through certain scientific cameras, they can see your light body. Anyway, we actually have a hue. I saw this just recently, and I thought that was so cool. Us as humans, we actually have a light or a hue that we radiate, and certain animals can see it. I think that's great. We just can't. Yeah, like we do. We have a glow, and certain animals can see it. We can't because of our retinas and stuff, but whatever. So, spiritual baths, staying prayed up. I know this is going to sound really cliche, but I have a lot of crystals around my house, but I have them set up in a very strategic way. And they're certain crystals. I'm not just like, any kind of crystal. There's certain crystals, and salt. Salt is one of the biggest cleansers and repellers of negative energy. So if you can have salt lamps, if you do salt baths, that's part of the cleansing. Like I put salt in my spiritual cleansing baths with certain herbs like rosemary. Spices that you literally have in your cabinet are meant for protection. Rosemary, thyme, basil, those three, and I swear that's probably why Italians are so freaking blessed sometimes, because they use it in everything. But those three are wildly protective herbs. So grow rosemary by your front gate or your front door, or like in the front somehow, or there's just certain things that you can do that you wouldn't think is protection, but it is. And
so is sage like cliche in a sense?
Say it again.
Sage, like saging,
No, sage is not cliche.
Smudging. Remember when we got smudged?
So sage scientifically kills bacteria in the air. So aromatically, it's actually really, really great for like your spaces, especially if like you have mold problems or anything like that. Sage is phenomenal for that kind of stuff. But it also helps cleanse energetically too. I saw you had put up another comment. She said I talked to what, but I didn't. I was talking, so I didn't read what she said. I talk to my water when I shower. Yes. Swear to God, yes. That, make yourself a bath talking to it. I have water in here. Before I went in, I was talking into my water. You guys didn't see it because I wasn't on the camera yet, because people think I'm weird. But talking to your water, it's huge because it holds memory. And then we're intaking that. It's programmed, right? So if we're going to talk scientifically in that sense, so people with analytical minds can understand it, it's programmed now. You programmed it, and now it's going into that program and being delegated through your body with that program. Here we go. Oh my God. All right. So love this. I'm so glad that you brought this up on the screen. When I was going in my fundamentals of biology class in college, we were doing stuff on with cellular levels and stuff like that. There was a woman that, so this was back in 2017, 2018, I think, something like that. There was a woman who was in my class. She was a foreign exchange student. So she was having a hard time kind of grasping some of the content and some of the stuff. And so one of our end projects that we had to do was on different like cellular makeups. I did one on chimeras. So that's people that have their chromosomes are all different and stuff like that. But anyway, this woman didn't understand the project. So instead she did this, and she brought this up and made this her project and talked about it and how I don't know the doctor's name. I know he's Asian.
Dr.
And he's
Emoto.
Yes, thank you. He did this. What was this? Back in the 80s, early 90s, he did this, something like that. Where if you talk to your water, and then freeze it, it comes up with all these different things. So like the word angel is the one. You see how it's all these different words. They've literally talked into the water these words, just words, didn't even set intentions behind them, didn't set emotions behind them, nothing like that. Just the words itself. And that's why word is very powerful, because it's a vibration, by the way. I don't think you understand. I don't know if anyone understands that when we talk, it's vibrations. But anyway, and it freezes differently because it has programmed the water to that word. And so a lot of us, like with words, have a meaning behind them, right? So the piece looks like that, and that's why it was programmed in that way. They also did a study where, and you can see it, where they'll take a plant, the same plant, and they'll have a control plant, and then they'll have a plant where it's listening to someone just saying hateful words or yelling at it or doing whatever over and over and over again. And then they have another plant where it's listening to loving encouragement and support and those kind of words. And the control plant will grow normally. The one that's served with love and all of the support stuff flourishes like nobody's business. And the one that's served with hate and anger and being yelled at literally dies.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me at
So
all.
if that's happening to plants, what do you think it's doing to us?
That's just absorbing it always, sponges. And
yeah, and so as a child, what do you think it's doing to us as when we're children and we're like the ultimate sponge as children? What do you think what do you think is happening when you're, and that's why you see, two kids could be in the same household, but if they're treated differently, they're going to come up very different.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, well, you were in the same household, but it's like one got yelled at way more than the other one did. And so you're going to see different aspects of their personality come out, or them being completely different people.
Yeah. Different traumas as well.
Right.
And it's sad because it almost seems that children, or any child for that matter, is inherently got trauma on them, so because again, these words are spoken into existence and they're absorbed, and then guess what, these kids will hang on to something that they heard when they were 3 years old all the way until
that's because it was planted in your subconscious. So what happens for the first 8 years of your life, we are absorbing all things. For the first 8 years is all absorption. So it's very critical about what's going on in a child's life in the first 8 years and what they're absorbing, because that sets up their basic structure and their subconscious. And our conscious mind, our conscious selves are playing out our subconscious at all times. And that's why, certain things with like subliminals and all that stuff can work, because it can be planted in, and then you don't know that it's there, and then you just start acting that way, or they get triggered in whatever way, whatever.
Listen, MK Ultra was bananas, and that's proven.
That's all hypnotism. It's all hypnotism. And so that's what I'm learning right now. Like I'm in a somatic psychology class right now, and that we're learning about trauma-based stuff and how much it affects your adult life the first 8 years. I mean, even though as a baby, like an infant, toddler, up until about 4 or 5 years, you may not remember but the stuff that's like implanted in your subconscious, it's there and it will play itself out until it's addressed. And that's why some people are like, I don't understand why I operate this way, or this is why I don't know why I attract this certain person, or I don't know why I can't kick this habit, or whatever this is, you know, whatever it is. It's because it's deep in the subconscious and you may not even remember ever being exposed to it or it ever happening to you, but it's there. So going in hypnotism, that's what I do. That's, as a hypnotherapist, that's what I help you do, is I bring you down into a altered state of consciousness so that your subconscious can come to the surface and bring this stuff up and out. And the thing is with hypnosis, that's why people, you know, people are always like, oh, you know, are you, I don't ever want you to like put something in there that I don't want to be put in there. When it comes to hypnotherapy, I can't ever put something in your mind that you weren't already willing to accept me putting in there. If you are wholeheartedly not willing to accept something, there is nothing I can say or do while you're in an altered state of mind without it being there. That's why with MK Ultra and stuff, that's why they put them through wildly traumatic experiences first to break their mind. Then they put the stuff in. That's why with military and basic training, they break your mind first. And then they go in and do all the subliminal trainings and stuff like that. Because it's the only way that they can implement that stuff. Because nobody can place anything inside your mind that you weren't willing to accept in the first place.
Yeah, that's insanity too. Fascinating. So
it is fascinating.
How do you feel about psychedelics and the psychedelic therapy and getting to these traumas?
I'm all for, so
I know it's kind of off topic, but
no, it's great. I'm for it. But only certain psychedelics. I'm very because I'm holistic, so I'm very natural minded. Shrooms all day. I think it's great for anxiety and depression. And in fact, I know for a fact, Johns Hopkins did a whole bunch of research, on depression and anxiety with the active ingredient that's in mushrooms. I never say it right. Psilocybin, right?
Psilocybin, yeah.
Yeah, I always say it wrong. But and the reason why I know this is because my cousin, who became a doctor, did his residency for 2 years and actually did this research. And it actively and effectively treats depression and anxiety. Now, I think they're probably trying to figure out how they can make it into a drug that they can keep, and sell it and make money off of it eventually from that research. But it works. Personally, when I was a teenager, I went through a really bad stage of depression, probably for like 5 or 6 years. It was really bad, especially like my later teens. I struggled really, really hard. And I did, when I was 21, I think 20 or 21, I did shrooms for the first time, and literally depression was just gone. I was like the most optimistic, totally changed my life around.
It changes wild. You, bro.
It's wild. I'm not really, I've never personally experienced like acid or, ketamine or any of that kind of stuff. So I don't have an opinion. I think that stuff is really heavy duty. And I do think that if you were to use that stuff, definitely having someone who knows what they're doing and how to dose it right to do it. Like I said, I'm more on the holistic things. I think whatever the earth has provided us is provided for a reason, and is always actively trying to help us become better.
I'd make the argument that LSD was provided by the universe. That mathematically crazy.
I don't know. I think the government made LSD, but
it's not out of the realm of possibility. They did a lot of work with it.
Right. But I think that they found a derivative of something. I mean, like with opium, I mean, poppies are made from the earth. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah, there was damn, now I'm drawing a blank on it, but it was a bread. It was like a fungus or something like that off of a bread. It was like rotted bread. What was it? Shit. Now I'm drawing.
Is that how they found it? See, I never really looked into.
Ah, shit. Yeah,
I
there was
never
like
really looked into it.
There was a whole town that went into like an acid trip because they were eating the fucking bread.
The bread?
And it was, yeah. I have to see if I can find it, but
I wonder how much fun that must have been.
Oh,
that town.
Yeah, it's probably bananas, but it was just
sure
it was an interesting question because, you know, especially you being tapped into that side all the time anyway. I was kind of curious how psychedelics or even mushrooms may have enhanced it.
Absolutely did.
So door off the hinges, maybe, you know,
because we only use 10% of our brains, and our brains are all neurons. They're all electricity firing, you know, synapses and all of that stuff. That the shrooms actually creates new pathways or opens up different sects of our brain that we don't normally use. So we have that capability of being able to see those things or being able to see that plane of existence, because I think it's just different dimensional planes of existence. I'm gonna be honest, that you're now opening your frequency up to being able to receive and see and understand. Just like with light, some lights we don't see, but they've been proven by science that they're there, but we don't see them because our eyes can't see them. So I just think it opens up our brains to being able to see it and connect in a deeper level, and the synapses fire in a very different way, that it opens you up to being able to just like experience that and see it and be able to do that certain stuff. Like when I mean, I know this sounds crazy. A lot of stuff sounds crazy, but
you're on the right podcast.
Right. Well, a lot of stuff. So like the first, I think like the first or second time I ever did them, because I only did it a couple of times. It wasn't like I went on some like huge psychedelic binge thing. I just only did it a couple of times. But I think it was like the first or second time I ever did it. I played with clouds. I was able to make the cloud bigger and then make the cloud smaller. And I had someone who was not on psychedelics, who was stone cold sober, verify that they were actually growing and shrinking. So I think it just opens you up to being able to manipulate the energy more and being more tapped into and connected to be able to manipulate the energy more.
Sure.
If you think about what mushrooms do, right? How they connect everything, the way their mycelium goes out and connects everything. If we eat it, then energetically we're connecting the way that their mycelium does. So then you're able to manipulate things much easier, or connect with the energy easier. I don't know. In my brain, that's how I connect it, because if you got to think about
you said it
how
earlier,
they are, like their function, right? Like their function, that's what they do. So if we're ingesting that and we're breaking it down, we're absorbing what they do. That's what our bodies are meant for. That's what the food, our food does. That's what everything does. So I think on some level, it just really helps us open up our brains in a way that our brains just are shut down, because a lot of the heavy metal stuff that's going on, they're linking a lot of like dementia and Alzheimer's right now to a lot of heavy metals, aluminum, lead, fluoride. I'm such a huge anti-fluoride person, and I have been since I was a teenager. When I found out that fluoride was a neurotoxin, and it was what it does is it paralyzes your pineal gland. Do you know what your pineal gland is, and do you know what the shape of the pineal gland is?
Yeah, it's like an acorn.
Kind of. If you look, look at the side slice of what the brain is, and look what the pineal gland is. It actually looks like the eye of Horus, and our pineal gland is actually our intuition. It's our third eye. That's what the pineal gland is our third eye. And so why is fluoride in our water? To paralyze our pineal glands.
Well, because
and calcify them. Why?
Yeah, it makes you not want to. again, you can't tap into that energy.
You can't be receptive, right?
Yeah.
And just like how our brains, so they always talk about just one brain, our gut is actually our first brain. It's our first receptor of energy. And that's why they're always like, go with your gut, the feeling you get in your gut. We actually take everything in through our solar plexus first. And that's where our gut is. And so then our gut fires off certain things to the brain, and then the brain is like, oh, this is happening, and then it fires off all the other motor and gross things going on inside your body. But our stomach, that they're starting to realize, has way more receptors than our head brain has, way, like, wild amounts. Our digestive tracts and our stomach has
gotta trust the gut.
Yes. And it's really the way that modern science and modern medicine is set up is really to disconnect that. And that goes back to, our medical books being switched out to certain medical books that were pushed by someone who wasn't a doctor and just wanted pharmaceuticals because they're petroleum based. Most of our pharmaceuticals are petroleum based. And I can go down that rabbit hole with Rockefeller and how he completely destroyed the medical industry.
Yeah, it's sad too, because like something that we're supposed to have so much faith in, to say we talked about it last night on the podcast too, is how it's like it's insane that you have to pay to stay alive.
It's
like
crazy.
If you can't fucking pay to stay alive, you die.
I just saw a post on Twitter X, whatever they're calling it. This woman
X
brought
is
her
holding
baby.
us down right now.
Are they?
I see. Not to cut you off, Mazzy.
No,
We
go
got
ahead.
so on Mazzy's Garden, we have 2 on YouTube on Nonsensical Knowledge X. We have 10. Mazzy's Gardens X has 24.
Okay.
We got 1 on our YouTube, 2 on our Facebook, none on our Twitch, but I can't see Rumble or Instagram right now. So
I wonder if anyone's watching on the Facebook page. Let me go look. Hold on. But anyway, while I'm looking at that, what was I even saying? I don't even remember now.
Lost you. Yeah.
No,
well, either way, what do we
got?
That
happens to me often.
What do we got coming up from you? So you said that you were doing the hypnosis thing. So how long does this course take? And
it's about a 2-year course, and I've been on this journey. I finished this February, on the 2nd of February. So I only have a couple of weeks left. And then I graduate. And then I'll have my degree. And that's when I'm really going to be launching a lot of my hypnosis stuff. I'm going to be doing a lot of guided meditations, group meditations. I'm calling them meditations, though it's much more than a meditation, but for where we live purposes and the regulations, I'm going to be calling them meditations. And to help, I'm really focused on a lot of like childhood stuff, because a lot of our stuff that we battle in adulthood started in childhood. So, and it seems like a lot of my clients that come across that end up like, reaching out for, readings and stuff like that. And, my tarot and oracle stuff, after a certain amount of like readings with them, or sometimes I can tell in like the first one with certain things that's going on in their lives and what comes out. It's a lot of it's childhood stuff or grief. People don't handle grief well sometimes, especially if you experience it as a child. So I'm doing a lot of that stuff. I am going to be because I recently became ordained, I'm going to be offering a lot of like sacred ceremony services where so I'm going to be I'm going to be mixing some of this stuff. So I'm going to be mixing some of these guided meditations where I bring people into a very relaxed state. I wouldn't say a full like hypnosis, but a very relaxed state. So they're just a little bit more open. And then I'm going to be doing Reiki and other energetic cleansings on them that I do. I'm very, that's why I call it Maisie's Garden, because I'm very earth minded. So sometimes I'll take certain herbs and flowers that hold certain properties, and I will literally, for the lack of better words, beat you with them. It's not like I'm really beating you with them, but it's a very shamanic, like energetic cleansing of your body. And I've done it to quite a few people now, because I like to, practice on people first and see and get kind of reactions before I like launch it as an official service.
Sure.
A lot of, like a lot of my friends and family and, people who are willing to be my little guinea pigs, and do it on them. And they've felt very energetically light afterwards. A lot of stuff comes up for them. And because energetic blocks are just, it's solidifying, right? So it's becoming, the way I see it is energy in motion. It's almost like it being like a gas, if we're going to do it very scientifically so you can understand it. It's like energy being like a gas, and then it slowly turns into a liquid, and now it's, in your body is turning into a mass, like solid matter. And that's where like cancers and cysts and fibroids and, but even benign tumors start forming. And so really my goal is to go in and break up before it starts forming into a solid mass, and break it up to get it back moving and bringing it up and out, and then addressing it in a therapeutic sense when that stuff comes up, guiding and coaching, because I'm a certified life coach as well. And then I'm also going to be getting certified in the sound healing, and like that's going to be like my last thing, is like ending that sacred ceremony with some sound healing to kind of just like filter it all out and clear it out.
So this is pretty full circle.
Yeah, I there's a lot of like moving parts that I've been doing, and it's all going to come together. At least my vision is trying to get it all to come together, because I want to be able to help people heal in different facilities in different ways, because not everybody has the same shit going on. You know what I mean? Not everybody, there's not like a one for all type thing. So some people may need, I'm not above giving somebody a spiritual bath, like dunking them in a pool and getting, well, I shouldn't say pool. I probably would do it with like a kiddie pool. I haven't done that yet. I've been thinking about it. That's a little bit, I wanted to become ordained before I really started doing that kind of stuff, because that's really getting into like ritualistic, hands-on hands healing that is heavily regulated. So I needed to be able to have.
So what do they say to you about that though? Like, so the regulations, like it is there
they would fine you. They would make me shut down. They would take my LLC from me. They heavily fine me. I could probably, depending on even what it is.
Is there certain do's and
like
don'ts?
Liability issues and stuff. Yeah, like I said, with like the hypnotherapy, I can't call myself like a therapist. Like I can't call myself a hypnotherapist.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay.
I can't, so I have to use certain verbiage and words to kind of get around it.
Sure.
I can't work with certain specific types of trauma in our state. Like there's other types of, like I can in other states, just in this state, I can't. There's certain and honestly, I probably wouldn't even want to unless I go and get my licensure, just because some of that stuff gets, pretty heavy, pretty fast, and it can go south if you don't know what you're doing in the right way. So I'd rather be educated in that first.
That's the responsible thing to do.
And absolutely.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm not one of those that's just trying to make like, trying to come up on the spiritual fad to make a quick buck or anything like that. I actually don't even care. I mean, I care about the money. Who doesn't want to like be able to live off of what they love to do? But that's not why I'm in it. Like that wasn't the reason behind why I started. People. Yeah, it's to help heal people. Especially
Kayla,
when you can like really see someone struggling. Like, and it's like, damn, if I can help them or at least get them on the right path or on the right track to helping themselves, like, why wouldn't you do that? But
It's what we're all supposed to do in general.
Right. We live in a very, again, because it's been pushed, a very selfish society, though. Like it's they push like making sure you're right first before others and like minding your own business. I'm the first person to not mind my own business and say some shit out in public and be like, what the hell are you doing? And everyone's always like, mind your business. And I'm like, absolutely not. Do y'all forget what public shame is? Like, do we forget what that is? Like, you don't care? Oh, okay, well, I will embarrass you then because you should feel shame for what you're doing. Because it's ridiculous that you're doing something like that. Or like if I see a struggling mom out with her kid, and everyone's always like, mind their business. And it's like, no, I'm going to offer to help because why wouldn't I? Like it takes a village, people. Yeah. We used to be a community and now we're all selfish individuals. This wasn't supposed to be an individualist society. We're supposed to be a community.
It's so disconnected now, though. So that's the
issue.
It's
so disconnected. It's so, and I mean, I get it. You have to like be good with yourself first in order to be able to help others. But and even that's a fine line for me because what does it take for you? Did it really like hurt your soul inside to say a kind word? Were you in such a bad place that it really fucked you up inside to do that? No, it didn't.
No, like again. It's all about we talk about it all the time too. It's about people's evolution through their because I was an angry kid when I was younger. I was one of those males that didn't, shitty father, shitty home life. I had to work through. Look, it is what it is. You know what I mean? But at the same time, I had to work through that myself. And for years and years and years, it manifested violently. You know what I mean? And
so when I said that hit right on the nail when I said that earlier. You're probably like, does she see me? Is she talking about me? What is happening right now?
Yeah, no, for real. You know what I mean? And but that goes for a lot of us.
Males, it does. Absolutely does. It absolutely does. And I think as men, you guys have because it helps with the depression. But I think with males, you guys have such a great disservice against you in the way society expects you guys to be. It's just wild. It really is just wild. And I hate it. I can't stand it. It makes me, I used to, like, I see it all the time. And nothing against anybody that I've been close with or anything. We've talked about it and I've, tried to be very soft and compassionate with it because again, you're bumping up against people's, their own realities, their own beliefs, the way that they operate, but I have seen where even now as the younger generations who are considered woke or a little bit more open to figuring this stuff out or like seeing it for what it is, them still slightly passing down, those stereotypes with men or passing down to their children. Like, oh no, that's a boy's color or that's a girl's color. Or, you shouldn't play with Barbies or dolls and I mean, yeah, there's certain nuances to it, but like, when my kid was younger and my nephew, they're 10 months apart, something would happen with my nephew and he'd start crying and people would be like, stop crying. You don't need to cry. And it's like, no, let him cry. Why? He's allowed to cry. He's just because he's a boy doesn't mean he can't cry. And then the same thing with having my daughter and they'd be like, oh, you poor baby. And I'm just like, what the heck is happening here? Like, and of course, it's my daughter. So I try not to be biased about that kind of stuff, right? Because it's my daughter versus my nephew. But I was noticing that. And it's not that my family did that all the time, but I just did. I saw those the little subtle ways that they do it, that after a while, it all builds up. Even if you're the most like woke person and you're so aware of that stuff, there's still some default operating factors that are, again, in your subconscious that we just grew up with and you don't even realize that you're passing it down.
Yeah, no, you really do, and you try to break cycles and then you don't realize the cycles that still had to be broken,
Yep. Yeah. It's definitely, it's interesting. We're definitely in interesting times. I'm looking forward to seeing a huge shift though. It's already started. The shift is happening. But And
You can feel it, right?
I'm interested to see how much more it accelerates over the next couple of years, because I really do think that this next year or two are going to be very interesting for our society, to say the least.
We've had enough. It's not working. It's got to change.
I know, that's exactly.
There's no alternative unless we're just going to meet this destruction.
Exactly.
So we have to wake up. Everybody's little cushy life isn't so cushy no more. So everyone's a little uncomfortable and trying to find out
Yeah, I just hope that it goes in the right direction. I think it will. I think there's enough of us out there that are really starting to like step up and be like, all right. Up. Yeah, all right, guys, it's time. Guys got to start listening to us on some level. And I think it does resonate with people, but again, they get scared because the people that they're also surrounded with may not agree. And who wants to be the person it takes a lot of courage and bravery to be the odd man out. and a thick, you know what I mean? And a thick skin, right? And a thick skin to like deal with the backlash of that.
It really does. And in a society that we should have the most open minds, right. It's we're getting there though. It's exciting. It's scary. But people are waking up and we can start to feel the masses now, like the distrust, with the governments or the medias, people are fed the fuck up.
They really are. And people are starting to really look into things instead of just taking it for face value. That they're no longer taking stuff for face value. And I think that's really the best part of this, what's happening right now, is because people are really starting to, the veil's coming off. You know what I'm saying? Like they're no longer
shattered.
The facade is harder to keep up.
Yes. Yes, it is. Let's keep the vibe up and let's keep pushing out that positive energy. And we're gonna wrap this one up. Kayla, it has been an excellent evening.
Go ahead. But Kayla, before you go, we got a huge planetary alignment coming up. What do you see moving forward before you get out of here?
We need
this. So which ones? Because we got quite a couple of shifts. So we have the North nodes that just shifted, and they went into Pisces and Virgo. And so Pisces. To me, Pisces, which is the ruler of spirituality, it's the ruler of the 12th house, it's the ruler of spirituality. I think what we're going to really see here with that is, now I'm no astrologist or astrologer, but I know enough. But I know enough because it's one of my favorite. There's so much with astrology that it's I don't feel comfortable like selling it as services, but like I know enough to like be able to speak on it. I do think that with the fact that Pluto just moved into Aquarius, and now the North Node moving into, so with Aquarius energy, it's all about the unconventional. Okay. It's about wanting to learn more. It's also about humanitarianism. So it's wanting to connect and like help each other out. Okay. And maybe even in an unconventional way, or at least being open enough to things changing. Okay. And now with the North nodes moving into Pisces and Virgo, the North node moving into Pisces, the South node is now in Virgo. It's bringing in that spirituality aspect of it. So the next year and a half, because it's like an 18-month transit, you're going to see the esoteric. You're going to see spirituality. You're going to see more holistic, unconventional ways of dealing with stuff coming to the forefront, and people really tapping in. People's intuitions are going to be off the charts. They're going to want to understand why something doesn't feel right, and they're going to go look for those answers instead of just kind of being complacent about it and being like chalking it up to being like, oh, I just must be feeling funky, because Pluto in Aquarius is now here. And the fact that Pluto, which transits a very long time in a sign, just because of how its rotation is, it's going to keep pushing for us to change things. Aquarius is Uranus energy, and Uranus is all about huge, unconventional, big changes. It's about things kind of coming in and switching up in a way that breaks down old, outdated thinking systems, the ways of operating, and then coming in and trying to find new ways to make it work, trying to be innovative in making things work. And with the North Node for the next year and a half being in Pisces, I think spirituality is going to come in and tuck in underneath that and really like help this huge shift in people waking up, really, and just really waking up and being like, I know something's not right here. I can feel it. And now I need to go figure it out. And so across the world, really, we're going to see huge shifts in people wanting to come together, wanting to heal things more, wanting to figure out who the real hidden enemy is, because the 12th house talks about hidden enemies and Pisces rules the 12th house. So they're going to want to see like who really is on my side and who isn't, and trying to figure that out. And so we're going to see a huge shift in, I think, how a lot of things operate. I think it's going to take a couple months for us to really start seeing significant stuff. I do think that things are already starting to happen, but I think in the next like 2 or 3 months, stuff is really going to get uncomfortable to the point where it can't be ignored anymore. You can't just chalk it up to like weird shit just happening. It's going to get really funky, I think.
That's awesome. Well, thank you for that.
Thank you.
Yeah, listen, you're welcome.
And we will have to do some sort of reading next time, like a tarot.
Listen, I'm down. Yeah. I have my cards here all the time. Like they're right here. I have cards here. I have multiple cards here. And in fact, I have like a celestial deck too, so we can tie in the astrology of things in with that deck as well.
That'd be fucking super dope.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. And I have a whole bunch of books on just celestial and astrology, so we could talk about that all day. I can literally talk about that all day. It's one of my favorite subjects because astrology and astronomy, it's all real. It's one of the oldest sciences, and the fact that they've made it this like, your sun sign, but it doesn't ever really resonate with me. It's because your birth chart, there's a snapshot of the sky when you're born, and every planet is in a different sign of the zodiac. And that all that energy builds you. It's your building blocks on who you are and how you're going to operate in the world. So I'm like a Capricorn sun, but somebody who was born maybe like a week later from me is going to have different astrological aspects and different things that, their moon is going to be in something different. If it's within like 3 or 4 weeks of each other, you can have a different Venus sign. And so all of that matters in your makeup. So there's a more depth to it than a lot of like these horoscope things that like, for a while. People are waking up to it because a lot of astrologers are predicting a lot of events that are coming true because of astrology. And it's like, ancient civilizations used to use astrology and they used it well, and they, were really smart in using it. And a lot of that stuff came true. So I'm not sure where that disconnect happened. I think it's mostly because then they don't want you to know. If you knew your birth chart and how it worked, you would know yourself very well. And if you know yourself very well, then somebody else can't tell you about yourself. And then there's a confidence, and then you're not easily controlled. So it's all tied in. It really is. It really is. There's a lot of different aspects that they've done over the course of like a century to wean out a lot of stuff that helped us have our own power and control so that they could take control.
Yeah, of course. That's the nature of reality right this second. It's this weirdo power, greed, fucking struggle that we're all dealing with. But
it's unfortunate.
It really is. But that's why, again, we are going to continue to push that positivity and continue to open people's minds and bring them and expose them to people like you and people like us and everyone else.
I think you guys got something really good going on here. I really do. There's not many people that are willing to all the different subjects that you bring up. Like, it's not just, you don't have just a niche. You guys are really trying to do something really great. And so that's why I had no problem coming on the podcast and supporting you guys, because I think this is really awesome.
Thank you so much. It's been so cool. And I'm sure Irv had a lot of fun as well. And we would love to have you back. Set something up.
Anytime. I will gladly come back anytime.
Yay.
Sounds great. Make sure everyone that tapped in, make sure you hit the subscribe button. Go follow Mazzy's Garden. Make sure you follow her on YouTube, X, Facebook, Instagram, and Patreon. And smash that subscribe button. We'll see you guys next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.